Okay, could you please just confirm that you can see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, thank you everybody for joining and for taking the time to spend your Tuesday morning with us. What we're going to be doing today is taking you through some of the Excel and Word automations. So essentially what we're going to do is provide different resources for you, different exercises that we can do together and then that you can do as homework. And then we'll go through what Word automation is, what you can automate with Word automation, how you can use it. We'll put that into practice and then we'll do the same for the Excel automation as well. Whatever is left over from the Excel automation will be homework. So that'll be something that you can then practice when you have some time as well. Now you'll see that the PowerPoint presentation is riddled with memes. I think this is one of those things that keep us sane from day to day. So yeah, play those a giggle as well as you see them come up. All right, so the first thing that we'll need to do to make sure that we can actually do everything together is when you go into UiPath StudioX, you'll need to go to Tools. So when you log in or when you open it up, it should look something like, not that, like this. What you'll then need to do is go to Tools, then go to UiPath Extensions and make sure that your Excel add-in is installed. If it isn't installed, please install it now so that we don't fall behind or have any issues with the Excel and the Word automations actually running. If those aren't installed, then you'll see it's really difficult to actually pinpoint items to Excel. So that plugin literally just lets you click on a specific element in Excel and it integrates right back into StudioX. It's actually quite nice. Then for the work that we're going to be doing today, you'll need to download the exercise pack. So that's the demo and then also the homework exercises or at least the resources that you'll be needing to complete those exercises. For the first pack, there'll be two different packs. The one will be the demo pack and the other one will be the homework pack. Then, yeah, Christina, would you mind maybe just posting the link in the chat, please?
Yes, sure.
Thank you. Perfect. There it is. Cool. So if you go to that link, you'll see this. So it'll be a zip file that you just need to download. When you unzip it, there'll be a demo exercise. That's the Word and Excel automation. And then the homework exercise is just an Excel automation that will start all together, and then you can complete that later on as well. Okay, so what we'll do is get that sorted in the meantime. And while you're busy doing that, we've got two more memes that we can look at. So the first one is where we kind of all start off when we're really new to this concept. And that's when, you know, you have the situation where somebody sends you a spreadsheet in Word instead of in Excel. And then you've actually got to go grab that and put it back into Excel. It's actually quite funny. Now, it's really easy to start off in that space. And it's actually, you know, with UiPath StudioX, really easy to move over to the next one where you can actually become an expert in PowerPoint, Word, and even Excel. And, you know, when you get all of this right and you can see these automations working, then, you know, even with the knowledge that you have, you really do feel like a computer expert. So our kind of focus on today's session is going to see how we kind of get you from a space of not really feeling comfortable with your skills to a place where you feel like an expert. And if you don't feel like an expert by the time that you've finished your homework exercise, then we're going to have to give you more exercises to practice with. Okay, just by a show of hands, is there anybody who's still trying to get everything set up and everything downloaded? Perfect. I see we've got some people who are already done. Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands. If you do seem to be falling behind, it's not an issue. Just raise your hand and we'll just slow down a little bit. Yeah, I think the recording will be on the session 3 page. So the same place that you registered. The recording will be up there. Perfect. Okay, still not seeing any hands, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. All right, so essentially what we're going to do now is we're going to go through what Word automation is, how you would use it, why you would use it, and then the same for Excel. Now, as somebody who would be using this from a business perspective, you're most likely going to be working with a lot of templates. Now, those templates might either be Word templates, they might be Excel templates, you might even have PowerPoint templates if you're going to go to that extent. But for the sake of this, we're going to be focusing on Word and Excel, but the same principle applies. Now, StudioX is something that UiPath has released to help people who don't necessarily have a background in tech to be able to create these kinds of automations as well. Because realistically, we all have quite a high workload, and we all do things that can be quite tedious and repetitive. And, you know, some of that is in Word, some of it is in Excel, some of it is in neither, it's in something else, but it is automatable. And that's where StudioX comes in. So the aim is to kind of reduce your workload and automate any repetitive and tedious tasks that take up a lot of your time so that you can actually use that time doing something more intuitive. Now, something referred to as StudioX Word automation is essentially the concatenation of a number of activities that will actually help you automate these tasks. And that would generally be done using Word templates as well. Now, when you're looking at Word automation, like I mentioned quite a few times, Word templates is pretty much the crux of that. And you don't necessarily need to go create a docm file, which is essentially the Microsoft version of a template. You can create a normal docx file, and you can actually use different words as placeholders. And that's essentially what we're going to be doing in the exercise today. Now, there are different ways of enumerating these and kind of breaking up these placeholders, and we can go through that when we get there. But we're going to start off really basic and then show you what that looks like. Now, when you're working with Word documents, you can either save the document as a Word document and keep it in the Word format, or you can save it as a PDF. You can save it in the same file that you're busy working with, or you can actually save it as a new file as well. That is a really important point, because what you might end up doing if you've got a template file, you need to ensure that you're not going to overwrite your template file, because otherwise you're going to have to recreate it and so on. So it is something to stay very cognizant of while you're busy working with the different files. Okay, now the next question is, how do you use it? The first thing with Excel and Word is that you actually have to tell StudioX which file you want to use. So for Word, there's a activity known as use Word file, and for Excel, there's a use Excel file, which literally just lets you point to exactly the file that you're going to be using for this automation. And then there's a few other actions that you can do as well on a Word file. So you could add a hyperlink, you can add a picture, you can replace a picture, and this replace a picture is actually quite cool. It's something we're going to be doing in a bit. But that's something that I think there's a lot of competitors who can't get this right. You know, this is kind of what separates UiPath out from some of the other key stakeholders or players in this space. Then the one that we're going to be using a lot today is replace text in document and then save document as. There's a few others as well that you can go play around with and trial and see if you can get comfortable with them, but essentially those are the big ones that we're going to be using. Now that's Word automation. Let's look at Excel automation. So once again, from a business perspective, you're most likely going to be using Excel to store lots of data and do some basic calculations or do more complex calculations. If you're a fundi in Excel, you might even have some macros that you're wanting to execute or that you have executed. And that can all be automated, and those running and updates can pretty much all come from StudioX as well. Now, very much like the Word automation, Excel automation also with StudioX helps you reduce your workload. And this is done through helping collect and insert data into Excel documents, or taking the existing Excel data and actually performing basic calculations within the Excel spreadsheet. Now, there's a number of different activities that come together, which is then what we refer to as Excel automation, which then help you automate these tasks that you would generally perform manually. And then even if you're working with your Excel templates and you've got things that you need to put into specific formats, that is something that we can all do together as well. Now, there are multiple different templates available. If we say, you know, there are things like Word templates that we are using, and there's Excel templates that we are using, and even PDF templates that we are using, why should UiPath not allow you to use templates? And that's kind of the question that has now transformed the way that this is actually working. Because if you're going to be using template documents, surely you should be able to use template solutions as well. And that's where UiPath have actually brought out a bunch of templates for you to use, where if you click on one of these, it will have all the code essentially inside the UiPath StudioX file for you. And you can essentially just go plug in the files that you're going to be using and run it from there. A lot of these templates actually have files that they download into your project that you can actually use as default from there as well. So this is a really powerful addition to the stack as well. As you can see, things like inserting charts into an Excel sheet, being able to consolidate Excel data using tables. That kind of stuff is really powerful when you don't want to go build everything out, because you know, it should technically kind of already exist. Okay, so based on that, are there any questions before we move over to the Menti quiz? I don't see anything in the chat. I see Lovely is waiting for some questions as well. Okay, if there aren't any questions, Christina, I'm going to hand over to you quick for the quiz.
Yes, just a minute for me to. Or we start from the right screen. Okay, see there are people already joining in the room. So guys, I will share screen now, and I will also give you in chat the code, so you can just go directly into the quiz room. So go to www.menti.com, yes, and you have this code. You just paste it, and then you're in the quiz room. Don't worry, we will wait for more of you to join. So you can. It's easier if you go from mobile, so you can also join from mobile very easily into the quiz room. And do not close the tab if you want to remain in the quiz room for the next questions, like for the second part of the Menti quiz, which will be before Q&A towards the end of the session. We have 80 people in the session, so I think we should get at least 60 in the quiz room. Let's see. Okay, people are still joining. Is anyone having problems joining the quiz room? Okay. Satsuki, why can't you join? It should work for everyone. Like if you just go to www.menti.com and paste in the code, it should work. Okay, we're up to 53 now, and I think this is where okay, some people dropped off. If the display is stopping, try closing the tab and refresh. So yes, as I said, you can also join from mobile and it's easier. So if you try joining from mobile, it will be a bit easier probably. Okay, I think I see we keep losing. Okay, I think we can start now probably, since we're up to 52, which was our top. So let's go to the first question now. And remember, guys, you need to answer fast to get more points. So the question is this something that can help you with your daily tasks? It's a pretty general question regarding your day-to-day tasks and how what you learned today can help you, or what you expect from the session today. As you can see, of course, all answers are correct for a question like this, because we really wanted to see how we can help you. So it's very good still that all of you answered that you expect this to help you. So yes, this is something that I'll definitely implement on my day-to-day tasks. This is exactly what we want to hear from you. So we're hoping by the end of the RPA Summer School, you will truly find help in automating with StudioX. Now I will switch back over to Jacqui. We can see the leaderboard, but since all answers were correct, the leaderboard will be based on how fast you answered, of course. So after the first question, we will have 2 Menti prizes today. So Mithun and Anil are leading the leaderboard for now. I will stop sharing and we will continue the session now, and we'll be back in the quiz room at the end of our session.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, so we should be back onto my screen. Please just confirm that you can see.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so in the files that you've now downloaded, you should be seeing essentially 2 or 3 different files. You should be seeing the flying robot, the resume data, and then the resume template. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using those files to actually populate a Word template, a resume or CV from the Excel file that you have. So you'll see that I've removed some of the extra fields. So we've removed experience 3 and removed education 2, but essentially the information in the Excel spreadsheet should be then used to populate these. Now the Excel spreadsheet looks like this. I'm just opening them up quickly. And just the Word documents as well. Okay, so this is what we have for the Excel document. We've got all the details that we need. We've got the name, the phone number, email address, the profile description, experience, the first and second experience, as well as the education. Then that all needs to be populated into this template over here, where we've got the name, the phone, the contact, email address, profile details, the experience, and the education, and then also this photo over here, which is then what we're going to be replacing with this flying robot icon, which looks like that. Okay, great. So now let us get started. First thing that you're going to want to do is open up your StudioX and create a new blank task. We can name this resume templates population. You can add a description. And you can create. Okay, that's then just going to get your environment ready. Then what we're going to want to do is maybe just plot out what we're trying to achieve here. So I've got a little draw IO board, and essentially there's a few things that we want to do. So we've got a person over here who's essentially going to be kicking off this process. And then we need to figure out what elements exist within our process. So we have an Excel file, which contains the resume data. And we have a Word document, which is a template that needs to be completed. Okay, now essentially what needs to happen is there's a bunch of different fields that we need to input into this file. Okay, now what we're going to do is one by one, we're going to input each of those fields. But now we need to figure out in what order do we access these files? Do we first access the Word document, or do we first access the Excel document? Now, essentially, because the data that we're wanting to use is in Excel, that's going to be where what we access first. So we'll have, if we look at the scope of our code, and if we're going to design our solution quickly, we have a nice big block that we've got here. We have the Excel that we need to put in together. Use Excel. We'll have a block for Excel, which will then just create like that, remove this. Okay, now we've opened up the Excel document. We're going to get all the information out of the Excel document, and we're going to populate that into the Word document. So then what we're going to do is we're going to open up the Word. We're going to use the Word file inside of the Excel document. So now we're going to use Word. Okay, and then all the activities that we want to do will be inside of this. Now, you don't necessarily need to follow along with what I'm doing here. I'm just showing you how we generally design solutions so that you don't trample around on your own feet when you're trying to put this together. Here, we'll actually replace elements on Word and then save the Word document. Okay, so this is going to be how we execute the process. that is a very high level overview, very, I want to say basic, but it can get quite complex. It's just a really good way of showing that, you know, when you plan out your activities and you start thinking about it, it really makes it a lot easier so that you don't mess around with this in Excel or in UiPath and then realize that it's not working, you've got to redo it. So this is a really good way just to validate that the way that you're thinking works and that you don't actually use Word first and then Excel, because then you're not necessarily going to be able to access all the information if you're doing it repetitively. The reason behind this as well that we use Excel first is because if we open up the Excel document, we only have one line right now, right? So if we had multiple different lines, you'd essentially be creating multiple different CVs. Now, if you looked at Word first, and this first block over here was Word, and the second block was Excel, you wouldn't be able to create a Word document for each and every Excel. You'd have to run this process manually every single time, and then go delete the rows. So it's a little bit of practice that goes into designing the solution, which you'll pick up with time. It's not necessarily something that you need to, you know, pick up immediately. It's something that you'll learn as you go along. But it is just something that I wish somebody told me before I started working with these kinds of solutions. So we've got our design together. Let's start executing. So first things first, we said that we wanted to use an Excel file as our first stop. So we're going to pull that Excel file down here. Okay, now as I've mentioned, what we want to do is point it to exactly which file we'll be using. So let me just quickly get here. So if we go to the demo folder, which is the one that you should have just downloaded, and you point it to the resume data and it's open, it's going to complain. So what you'll need to do is close the file, then select it. It'll select the file over here. You'll see that it selected the correct file, and then you can open it up again. It's just that when you select the file, make sure that it is closed. So for that reason, let's do the same with Word. Let's just close Word. Okay, I'm just going to minimize Excel because the timing of that was suspicious. Okay. Now we can grab the Word file. Which looks like this. And we can go select the Word file that we wanted to use. We're just going to go back to where we were. Resume template. So that's also in the file that you were supposed to download. You'll see that the resume template is over there. Now let's just stop here quickly, and I want to explain a few things to you. So if we look at the use Excel activity that you're using, essentially there are a few things that you want to look at. So there's a property tab that you can look at. You can see that if there's passwords, so if you're working with HR or finance data, you might have passwords that you can also insert over here. You can change the workbook path if you wanted to, although that you can do pretty easily up there. You can check to see if the Excel file should stay open. You can tick that. You can change the read formatting, read only, and there's a few other properties that you can change. Now, the two main properties that we are concerned with here is create if not exists, and save changes. Now, the save changes means that you're going to be using the same Excel file, and every time you update the Excel file, you're going to be saving those changes. Now, essentially, we don't want that because we don't want to change anything to the Excel file. We only want to change something to the Word document. So I'm going to untick that. And then the second one is that if the Excel document does not exist, this property over here actually creates that file, which we also don't want, because if the Excel document doesn't exist, then we don't want to be able to continue with the process. So we're going to uncheck that. Now our Excel is set up and we're ready to go. Let's go to the Word document. Now let's think about a few things first, right? These are the kinds of things that we think about when we're designing our solutions. Do we want to use the same Word file that we're going to be using or essentially having as a template? Do we want to save that file into the same file, or do we want to create a new file? In this case, we want to create a new file. So what we're going to do is add a save as option to the bottom. Okay, inside of the same Word file, use Word file activity, we're just going to save that, and we can create a new document name. So this will be resume.docs. And we're just going to save that there for now. We can replace existing. It does save as a docx type. There's a few other types that you can use as well. So for this reason, or the reason I'm doing this, is because we want to uncheck these two over here. Because if the template does not exist, we don't want it to continue, and we don't want to save changes to the template. Because when we save changes to the template, it means that we've overwritten our template and we're going to have to go back and recreate the template. So that's why we've added the save document as here at the bottom to make sure that we actually save the changes to a new document. Okay, so this is just the basic setup to make sure everything works. Now we can start looking at sorting out what our flow should look like. So I'm just going to open up the template again, and we've got the Excel open. Okay, so I'm just going to put these two side to side as soon as the Word opens. Okay, now this name over here, this flying robot, needs to come in over here, which means name is going to be our placeholder. Our phone number over here is 123456123355678, which will be replaced by the 1231231231234. So that becomes our placeholder. This becomes our placeholder for the email, which is then replaced by this. We've got the profile details or profile description, which will then be replaced over here. We've got experience 1 and experience details. Now this is going to be where things start to get a little bit hairy, because if you replace experience 1 first, you're going to be replacing experience 1 here and experience 1 here. So generally what I do, okay, sorry, I see I'm too fast. Where did I lose you guys? Okay.
Jacqui, you can show the word automation flow itself.
Oh, okay.
Guys, the recording will be available on the event link, and you also receive, after each event, you receive an email with the recording and the presentation from the event. So did no one receive those emails after the sessions? Or can you confirm whether anyone received those emails with the presentations and recordings? Okay, so yes, you get them on your email address. And if not, you can just check the event on which you registered and you will find them there. I will also share with you the recording links, so do not worry. Just tell us now whether you have a hard time following and where you lost it if you are a bit stuck. So Jacqui knows like how much to wind back.
Yeah. Okay, I see we've got somebody who's still a little bit stuck from the Excel activities. Still
Yes,
not able to
yes, Jacqui, so you have added the Excel activity here, right?
this one over here.
Yeah, so from that page, I just got stuck from there.
Okay, cool. I'll go back and then just explain this again. And then we can see if that helps a little bit. I see there's a question from George as well, which I'll answer now while we're going through this. Okay, so with the Excel file, the most important thing that you need to do is actually point the use Excel file activity to the file that you want to use. So the zip file that you downloaded and unzipped, if you go into the demo exercise file, you'll see there's resume data there. That's an Excel spreadsheet that you need to use to populate the Word document. So in essence, you'll point this activity to that resume data.xlsx. You'll need to make sure that that document is actually closed, otherwise it'll pop up an error. And then you're going to want to uncheck the save changes and create if not exists properties. The reason for that is because we're not actually going to be making any changes to the Excel. And if the Excel does not exist, we do not want to continue because we need that Excel, we need the information in that Excel to actually continue. That's the basis of this automation. Then we'll be looking at the use Word file. That use Word file will do the same. So we need to point the Word file activity now at the resume template, which is the template we'll be using to replace the placeholders. Now, once again, what we've done inside of this use Word activities, we've added a save document as activity. And the reason for this is because we've unchecked the create if not exists and the save changes properties. We've unchecked those because we don't actually want to change our template. We want to use the template, update or at least replace the fields on what the template document would look like and save that as a new document to whatever the document name is going to be. Now, George was asking if we could actually make this dynamic, and yes, you can. So what you would then do is you'd open in Advanced Editor, which is now living. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Okay, so what you would then do is you'd actually be able to add a variable in here as well. So as soon as you say, okay, let's just do that over here. Add a plus. And then in the middle here, you could actually add a variable name. So if you had a variable, just trying to see how we, okay, so if you had a variable, you'd actually be able to add that in there. So let me show you what I mean by that. So first thing that we want to do is let's just quickly go get a variable, set variable. For those of you who aren't necessarily following this just yet, just give me a second, I'll explain it now. Okay, so we can create a new variable named file name, and this can be set to something like the date or the name or something like that. So here we can say placeholder text. If you wanted to add the date, you could add the date too. That's a function that you would need to add. So we're going to keep it simple for now and just make a placeholder text. And then when you go here, you can actually open up, or you could use a variable where you just replace the file name. So you can actually add that file name in over here and then just rename this. So you could either use that file name over there, which then just be placeholder text. And then in here, you could actually change the text as well. So there you can see it formats it. Just trying to open this up. There we go. Now what you can actually do is actually also just add the resume at the end here. So there's two different ways of doing it. You can either do it in a resume and then add the resume in the file name and then add the file name in the name of the file that you're saving. Or you could actually just go change the expression here to only include the file name and then whatever you're saving at the end as well. So there's two different ways to do it. That's how you would then make the name dynamic. If you don't want to make the name dynamic, it's fine. Then all you do is you just put in the new name that you want over here. Okay, let me just quickly catch up with the questions. Cool. Okay, thank you so much, lovely. I see you've also answered the questions in the chat. You're a star. All right, so are we all together with regards to the Excel and the Word scopes and why we've used the properties that we've used? So the expressions, as far as I know, is VB, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so down here it shows you that it's VB, it's Windows Legacy. So when you set up the project, there are instances, especially when you're using normal Studio, that you can actually change it to C#. So if you're looking for expressions that you can't necessarily, so maybe let me take a step back there, because that is actually also quite an important question. So generally, sometimes I'll Google something very specific to UiPath. I'll look for an expression. I won't necessarily find what I'm looking for. But like Letitia has asked now, which language is being used to write these expressions? Since we know it's VB, you can actually go check what the syntax is for a specific expression in VB, and it'll show you what that expression should look like, and you can still place that in over here. So that's generally also how I search sometimes if I can't find the answer that I'm looking for when I'm adding UiPath into my Google search criteria. Can we use an asset to put a dynamic value so that we don't have to download and update the code? Yes, you can use assets. So here's a get orchestrator asset activity over here, which you then pull in, and then you'd actually be able to go retrieve the asset name, or you put the asset name in and you actually get the value out. So for those of you who don't know what an asset is, essentially when we're working with different types of processes, we're deploying these to the UiPath orchestrator, and they're running from the UiPath orchestrator. They can also run from your assistant, and we'll get into that detail in a bit. But essentially what would happen is you could store different assets and credentials on the orchestrator. So if you're using a username and password, you don't want to hard code that into your code because it's not necessarily secure. And if other people have to access your code, they'd have your username and password. So what we do is we put that into a credential or an asset, depending on what data you're trying to save inside of the orchestrator. And then all that you do from Studio and StudioX is you actually pull those values down into your flow or into your process, and you can use it from there. Okay, so that's that. Are we all still on the same page? Is there anybody behind on this? Okay, perfect. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start looking at how we can start populating some of this information. My UiPath Studio doesn't have set variable name. Is it only available in StudioX community? No, Joseph. So you should have a set variable inside of your StudioX, but maybe just check, are you looking for set variable name or set variable value? Because the activity name is set variable value. So if you look for set variable, it should pop up. Okay. Joseph, if you're still not having that, maybe just let us know in the chat, please. In the meantime, I'm going to start moving on. Okay, so we're going to start looking. We've now identified what our placeholders are, and we need to start replacing the data there. So what I generally like to do is I like grouping my information and the different steps that I'm trying to execute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the group activity, and I'm going to bring that in. Now, what I want to do is I want to rename this because I don't want to group. I want to know what that group actually means. So in this case, I'm going to say replace all text values. So that's going to be what happens in this group. All the text values that I need to replace, I'm going to replace here. And the reason for that is because this can get quite long with all of the different values that we're going to be replacing. And if I don't want to see those, I can collapse them. Okay, so that's one of the reasons that I like using groups. So now we want to actually start replacing text. So we're going to search inside of the activities bar for replace text. And you'll see there's a few things that pop up. We can actually replace text in presentation, replace picture, and replace text in document under Word. That's going to be what I want to use. I want to replace the text inside of the document. Now, if we try to add this up top here, above the word scope, this would complain because it says that it is not inside of an application scope. Now, if you ever see that error that says your activity that you're trying to add is outside of or not inside of your application scope, you know that you need to create that use word file because the code doesn't know where and what you want to use. And then you actually need to point this to the word file that you're going to be using, which is then what happens down here. That's why this one over here won't have an issue because it works inside here. The issues that it has here is because of the values that it can't find. So if you look there, it shows that the required activities that we need aren't being found, which is a different error to the one that's happening over here. So if you hover over it, you'll be able to see the errors. Okay, so since we already have the use word file activity, we're going to delete that one because we're doing everything correctly here. Then we're going to be searching for very specific text. We'll be telling it what text we want to search for. So in this case, it's name. We'll save that and we'll replace the value with something that is living inside of Excel. Now you'll see Excel starts to light up. It opens up Excel, it opens up the UiPath extension and asks us to confirm or cancel the item that we're trying to replace with. Now we said that we wanted name. So we're going to click on name, which is field A2 or cell A2. It asks us if we are happy with this and if we want to confirm that sheet 1 A2 is what we want to use. So we're going to confirm that. And when we confirm that, it goes back to Excel, or sorry, to UiPath, and you can see that it's actually replaced or is going to replace the replaced with value with what we've now selected in Excel. Now we've got an option here to either replace one instance or all of the instance where we find the name. Now, generally what I do is I replace all instances. And this can sometimes become a little bit tedious, which I'll show you in a bit when it comes to experience. Now, the other thing that you're going to want to do is you're actually going to want to say what you're replacing. So if you're replacing text in a document, you want to say name so that if one of them don't work, you know which one to go look for. Okay. Then you can copy and paste. So I just use the keyboard shortcut, which is Control-C for copy and Control-V for paste. But you can copy here and then paste down here as well, and the same will happen. Okay, so we've now worked out name. We want to replace our phone number. So let's copy the phone number. Yeah, sorry, Andrew, I'll slow down a little bit. Where did I lose you? Let me just go back here quick so that you can see what I'm doing. I can try. Let's see if that's going to work. Let's just put this on this side and the Excel on this side. Just close all of these. All right, so I'm just going to recap what we've done for those who may have missed it. Sorry, I know that I might be going a little bit quickly. Okay, so what we've done is we've identified the fields that we need to replace, which are name, this number over here, contact email address, experience one, the details, so on and so forth. So what we've now started doing is we've actually started adding those replace text in documents activities into the flow inside of the group that we've put down, so that we can actually start replacing some of that information. So I've got the name, which we're now replacing with flying robot, which we've now selected. And then what we need to do now with the next one is actually replace the phone or the phone number. Okay, so I just want to do this one quickly so that we don't get confused with the values that are the same. Okay, and then all we need to do here is actually show. So if we're replacing with, we want to go to Excel, which is the Excel scope that we're busy with. We want to indicate inside of Excel which field we want to replace it with. We're going to B2, which is the phone field, and we're confirming. You'll see that updates. Okay, we have a question here. Does the replace text work by replacing the first instance of the search word? If so, then what if we need to replace other instances? Okay, so essentially what is happening is there's an option down here which allows us to either replace one or replace all instances. So if this is not checked, we're only replacing the first instance. If it is checked, we're replacing all of the instances. So that's how we manage what to replace and what not to replace. In a case where we're going to be working with experience, so we've got experience one and we've got experience one details. This is going to be tricky because if you replace all instances of experience one, it means that everywhere where experience one details is, we're also going to replace that and we're only going to have details left. So what I generally tend to do is I work backwards. Instead of replacing experience one first, I replace experience one details because it looks for the details as well. Then experience one doesn't get replaced. So after I've now replaced the details, which is the one that might be faulty, then I replace the experience one and it works. Okay, replace text shows error, cannot choose value. That's a strange error to be getting. I'm not sure if we can send screenshots here. Maybe try send us a screenshot, please, of your error. Then we can try to debug that. Okay. In the meantime, is there anybody who is still stuck or left behind, or can I continue? So just by a show of hands, if anybody's still stuck, then I know to wait. Otherwise, I'm going to continue. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, so I'm going to continue. Okay, I see there's a question here. No, I want to explicitly replace only one instance, only the other instances of the search words. I don't want to replace the first instance. What can I do in this case? Okay, so what you're going to do in this case, what I would suggest is actually use different placeholders. So this is now where you actually start changing the words of your placeholders to be different instances. I think that'll probably work best. It does become a little bit tricky because then you've actually got to count how many instances there are, and then you've got to actually exclude the first one. It really does get tricky. So when we were using StudioX, the easiest way to do that would be just to change the tag of the placeholder. Okay, cool. So I'm going to continue. We've now replaced, or we've now set to replace the name. We've set to replace the phone. Let's replace the email. Let's check what the email placeholder looks like. That's contact@yourdomain.com. So I'm going to copy that, and that'll be what we put into our next activity. So let's make that email, because we're just making sure that our naming conventions are correct and we understand what we're doing. Okay, then we're going to paste our email address, which is the placeholder. We're going to save that. So contact, we're searching for contact@yourdomain.com, which is the Excel placeholder, the email placeholder. And we're going to be replacing that with the email inside of our Excel spreadsheet. So that is cell C2, which has now been replaced. Okay, so we've done name, phone, email. Let's check where that was. So that's the first three things are done from our side. Now let's do portfolio or profile details, which is profile details in the Word, but it is profile description in the Excel spreadsheet. So I'm just going to paste the activity, make that profile details. Okay, let me clear this quick. All right, so for those of you who are just quickly busy on your flow, I just want to show you something quickly. So we've got profile details on the Word document. We've got profile description in the Excel document, which means that we now need to refer to this information that we've got here, but replace this. So this is the text that we're replacing, the profile details, and the profile details is what we're searching for. So when we go back to the, when we go back to the flow, we actually want to then search for profile details because that is what we're looking for on the Word document. And we're going to be replacing that with the profile details info that we have on the spreadsheet, which is in D2. We'll confirm D2. And now we've done the name, phone, email, and profile details. Okay, so that's all the auxiliary information. Now we need to start looking at experience and education. Okay, so I'm going to give it a few seconds just so that everybody who's still busy can continue. And then we'll go on to the experience, because the experience is now where we have to be very careful, otherwise we're going to be replacing the wrong instances of the words. Okay, just by a show of hands, who's still busy? I'm not seeing any hands. I'm not sure if the hands functionality is working. It seems like everybody's following quite well. Cool. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is continue. Okay, so we drag in the replace text in documents. We're going to rename it to include experience 1 details. So like I said, I'm starting from the back. I'm doing details first, and then I'll do experience so that I don't mess with the placeholder for details 1. Then I will be looking for very specific text. Let's just quickly go check what that text is. It is experience 1 details. I'm going to paste that over there. And we're going to be replacing that with the information that we have in the Excel document inside of F2. So we're going to confirm that, and we're going to be doing the same for experience 1. So let me just quickly add a new activity. Name that experience 1. We're going to be searching for experience 1. And we're going to be replacing that with the value inside of the Excel, which is then E2. All right, so this is what I was referring to. I did details first, and then I did experience 1 so that I don't actually replace this experience 1 reference over here. Now, generally what I tend to do when I'm working with placeholders, specifically in these kinds of cases, is I actually encapsulate them like this. And the reason for that is because if you're looking for this over here and you update that, it won't update this over here because it's looking for those brackets as well. So that's the way that I generally do my placeholders, specifically for the reason that sometimes I end up updating things that I'm not supposed to update. And it works really well. So if you do create your own templates, that is a way of doing it as well. Okay, I just want to put that back onto the side of the screen so we can see what we're doing there. Okay, so we've done experience 1. I'm going to copy the 2 that we've now done for experience 1, and I'm going to paste them below, and we're going to do the same for experience 2. So now all we need to do is replace the experience 2 details. I'm just going to update what we've already done for experience 1. Okay, we're going to indicate this inside of Excel, and we're looking for experience 2 details, which is then H2. We're going to do the same for experience 2. So just replace those items over there. Okay, and then what we do is we indicate in Excel. Wouldn't the robot be fast if you uncheck replace all? and only replace one field at a time. So the problem is that if you had multiple different fields, you could replace one at a time. It's not necessarily going to be faster because it still only finds one instance. But if you've got multiple instances, then the replace all works a lot faster than going to replace one at a time. At this point, I think the replace all that you might be referring to, I'm not sure if you mean replacing all of them that comes from here. We've actually got to go map them up. That's why we've got to tick that replace all for the one that we've mapped up. One by one is the best way that we can actually map these at the moment, if you're referring to the individual activity, Letitia. Okay, great. So let's look at what we've done now. We've done the experience 1, experience 2. We've done the name, phone, email, the profile details. The only thing that's left for us to do is the education and then the image. Okay, so let's do the education quickly. Same applies for the education. So we'll drag in a new activity, rename that to be education 1. Just check what it's named. I think it's details. Details, yeah. Just check what it is in the Word document. Yep, cool. We can actually copy that from here. Okay, let's paste the text. And we're going to be replacing that with what is in the Excel for education 1 details. Save that. And then we do the same for education 1. Same principle applies to what we had done now with the experience. So I'm not going to spend too much time explaining that. Okay. Cool. So now we've got quite a bit happening here, a lot of things that we've replaced in terms of text. So what we can do now, because we added a group, is we can actually collapse that group and we can see our flow is quite nice. We know where all the replaced values are. And now what we can do is actually replace the picture. So we drag that place picture across. And now what it wants is the alt text. Now alt text stands for alternative text, which is essentially what is used to display, or it is usually displayed right after a picture cannot be found. So if you want to know what the alt text is of an image, you can right click on the image and you can say edit alt text. Then there'll be a panel that pops up and you'll actually see what that alt text is. If you don't have an alt text, you need to put one in because this is going to be how you identify which picture to replace. That's your placeholder for the picture. So what we then do is inside of UiPath Studio, we add the text variable value of photo placeholder, photo underscore placeholder. Now we need to select which photo we need to put in there. So we go back to our demo exercise and we add the flying robot picture. So this is the third resource that you have underneath your zip folder inside of the demo exercise folder, which you then pulled through from Google Drive. Okay, so essentially our flow seems to be done. We've got our saved document right after we've done all of this. So I just want to see if anybody's stuck. Has everybody added the replace picture? Can we execute? Is everybody following? Great. Then what we can do is we can actually run. Now let's just quickly check here. Okay, so it's going to execute. It opens up. Now you can actually watch it run. So it goes and updates all of your information based on what was happening inside of the Excel. You can see your education's updated, your profile is updated, everything is updated, and there's your image. Okay, so that is the magic. Now it closes everything down again afterwards. And your process over here, if you go to output, you can actually see that everything ran. There were no errors, so everything is good and dandy. All right, now what we want to do is see what that file is and how it looks, or what it looks like. Now, because we actually only just put in the file name as placeholder text, we didn't actually give it a path. It is going to be saved in the same place as your solution, or the same place as the solution that you've created. So what we need to do is we actually need to go to where the project is currently hosted. So you go up here to the top in the design pane, you click on project and you say open project folder. And that will then open your solution folder like this. And there you'll see the placeholder text.docs that was created. Now, if you open that up, you'll be able to see what your Word document looks like. And there we go. There's everything that is being inserted. So what you can now do is you can actually now start updating all the information that you've got inside of the Excel spreadsheet. You can rerun this and see what the output is there. Okay, so there's a question here. Any idea why on my screen right bottom where your email shows is a green circle, yours is robot error? Yes, so what happens there is if you've got if you don't have the green icon over here and you've got robot error, it means it's not connected to the orchestrator. So you'll need to go into the orchestrator and make sure that your robot is connected. If it isn't connected, it could be one of many reasons which we might need to help you debug. So that's something that we'll need to look at. I had a similar issue yesterday, and it was because of my license that was associated. So previously, when I was using normal Studio, I'd have an RPA developer license associated to it. But because we're using StudioX, please make sure that you've got the automation developer license associated to the username that you've used to sign in. You might also just not be signed in. So if you go to your robot assistant, which looks like this, if you click on the start button and you type in UiPath assistant, it should show you everything that's happening over there. You should see a green dot. Then what you can also do is if you go to preferences, which is in a different screen, there we go. It's popped up on the screen over here. And you go to orchestrator settings, it should show connected over here. So there's just a few things that you'll need to pull through. If this is connected and you're signed in and it's still saying not licensed, then it could be because your license isn't associated in orchestrator. Okay, cool. I'm going to leave Lovely to help you with that because I see she's doing a good job of debugging that side as well. So I'm going to move on unless there are any specific questions. Oh wait, there's one here. Set variable value, can that be dynamic using VBS? Yes, so you can create a dynamic set variable expression essentially so that you can make that almost like a date or a name specific thing. You could actually pull through different values from Excel as well. So you can actually go indicate what the name is and then pull that into as part of your variable. There's some fancy things that you can do with set variable to make this dynamic. And yes, that is using VB. Is it possible to do the same activities with PowerPoint instead of Word? Yes. So if you look here on the right-hand side and you search PowerPoint, you'll see there's a bunch of things that you can do here as well. So there is replace text in presentation. There's delete slide, there's paste into slide, add a new slide, add text to slide. So you can actually do some really nice PowerPoint automations as well using StudioX. It's quite a powerful tool to help you with pretty much anything that you do on a day-to-day basis. Can we use the same Excel with multiple rows to add data into in multiple Word docs? Yes. So what you would then do is you'd add in so remember we've now added this over here, this Word document over here. So what you can actually do is you can say for each, and there'll be an item over here for each Excel row. So if you drop that in over here, you can show that it's the current row, and you'll actually need to select a range inside of the workbook. So what you can do is if you go into Excel sheet 1, you can show that you want to do this for table 1 because there's a table inserted. If there wasn't a table inserted, you can actually go indicate the range inside of the Excel, which we'll do in a bit. And then all you do is you drag this part up so you drag that used Word file into the Excel row. And then all that you need to do there is actually go update the value over here, the variable value to actually be dynamic so that you can see what those different files look like. And then that would pretty much just run and execute all of those different rows. What you might also just need to do is go replace these values over here. So we've pointed it to very specific places in the Excel document. Instead of using the Excel document, you'd actually need to use current row. And then you can say that you want to use name or phone or email or so on and so forth. There's some really nice things that you can do from that perspective. So I definitely suggest playing with it. It does make life a lot easier. And it is a really good question. These are the kinds of things that we need to think about when we're doing our designs as well. So that was the exercise of this as well, to show that if you wanted to create multiple Word documents from one Excel file, this would work better than the other way around. So it's good to think about these things, because these are the kinds of things that you start taking into account when you're designing your solution. All right, so if everybody's happy with this solution, then let's go back to the slides and go through it from there. So I'm going to hand over to Christina then for our next Menti quiz, and then we'll go through the last demo.
Okay. So we'll go for the next part of the Menti quiz now till the end. So the last 3 questions. Guys, remember, this is the code. I will place it in chat again. So www.menti.com. Yes, if you jump out of the quiz room and place this code again to get into the quiz room. And yes, let us know when you're in the quiz room. Say a yes in chat, so we know we are ready to start the quiz. Okay. Let's give it a few more seconds in case anyone jumped out of the quiz room. Okay, so we have 3 questions coming up in this Menti episode, let's say. So second question of the Menti quiz. Remember, guys, answer fast if you want to get more points. Now we're getting into the technical questions. What activity should be used before amendments to a Word document can be made? Use Excel file, use Word file, group, none of the above. This is something that Jacqui showed right in the beginning when she started the RoboPath, the automation. Okay, good. Yes, most of you got it right, of course. Let's see the leaderboard after this question now. I think we have the same people. No, it changed. Okay, so we have Yama, Donut, and Floris leading now. But don't worry, guys, this might switch because Menti is dynamic, and usually the leaderboard doesn't remain the same between questions. Let's go to the next question now. Another technical question from the presentation. Remember, answer fast. And correct, of course. What needs to happen to save the Word document to a new file? Tick create if not exists. Tick save changes. Add save document as activity. Add save document as PDF activity. Great. Yes, so as you can see, it's add save document as activity. Let's see the leaderboard after the third question. Okay, so we have employees. Oh, okay. I was wondering, Jacqui, do you want to move into the final question now, or should we save that for the end of the presentation?
I think maybe let's leave that for the end of the presentation.
Yeah.
I think that might fit better then.
Yeah, I think we should leave it for then. Okay, guys, we will have one more question for you at the end. I'm going to hand it over to Jacqui now.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for participating.
Perfect. Okay, so just please confirm that you can see my screen again.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so we've moved on to what would then be something that we'll look at now from an Excel automation perspective, and then something that you're going to continue doing as homework. So we're now moving on to the homework exercise folder that you would have downloaded as part of the zip file, which has 2 different files in it, which look like this. So we've got the conversion rates and the opportunities. So I'm just going to open those up quickly while we wait. And essentially just close this. And while we're waiting, essentially what is going to happen is we're going to be looking at, sorry about that, we're going to be looking at updating the opportunities spreadsheet with what is happening inside of that same spreadsheet. We're going to take some of the information that we've got and we're going to use another Excel spreadsheet, which is the conversion rate file, to actually update that. So on the left-hand side here, this is what the opportunities file looks like. On the right-hand side, that's the conversion rate. And what we actually want to do is use the conversion rate to get the total price in USD, which is the US dollar. Now, okay, give me a second here, quick. Sorry, I see I did the one thing I told you not to do, and I actually updated my template. All right, so this is what it looks like. You've got 5 different tabs. All of them have more or less the same information in. So what you'll need to do as a homework exercise is take what we're going to do on Monday and actually apply that to the different tabs as well, and see if you can do that a little bit more dynamically without having to go create one per weekday, essentially. Now, the conversion rate looks very similar to what we saw previously. Nothing's changed there. We've only got one sheet, and that's the data sheet. Okay, so let's create a new task, and let's name that conversion or total price USD from conversion rate. And we can actually split this out now that I think about it. Okay, add a brief description. So the description in this case is populating / calculating the total USD amount based on the conversion rate in separate Excel documents. All right, and then we're going to wait for that to create. Let me just see if there's any questions. Doesn't seem like it yet. All right, so there's a few things that we're going to need to consider here once again. We need to think about how we're going to be looking at the design. So this design over here, I'm just going to change this. By the way, I'm using Draw.io, but it's freely available. So if you want to use this for your designs, it works really, really well. And we'll just create a new tab, name that Excel automation. All right, so we've got a few things that we're looking at here. We've got the Excel file, which is the opportunities that we're looking at. And this is Excel with data. And we've got the conversion rates. Now, both of these are Excel files that have data in them already. But what we actually need to do is provide calculations in this one as well. So what we'll do here is actually say that, whoopsie daisy, I'm doing some crazy things here. Just click it back. Sorry about that. Okay, so what we actually need to do here is say need to create Okay, so is this tool for creating diagrams also part of UiPath? No, so this is not a tool that is used within UiPath. There is another tool that is used within UiPath, which is referred to as UiPath Task Capture, which also works really, really well for documenting your process. As a citizen developer or business user, it is really useful to start getting familiar with Task Capture. There are quite a few different things that you can do with Task Capture. There's a few different training courses on Academy that you can go through. We'll go find the links and then pop them in here as well. But essentially, Task Capture would pretty much do more or less what I'm doing here and would actually provide the documentation. I didn't want to start off with Task Capture to because that is a really cool product, and I'd probably get lost in demoing UiPath Task Capture instead of StudioX. But yeah, I think you could either use this or Task Capture. It is a really cool tool to use. How could I access the tool? Okay, yep, I see Christina's got that one covered, so I'm going to continue here. Cool, so we've got opportunities, we've got conversion rate. Here we actually need to go create the conversion and the calculation. And here we've got the conversion rate with all the data that we need. Now, remember in the last one, what we did is we took the data that we had access to, and we actually went and put the word inside of that because that's what we were automating. Now, this is now where the design thinking comes in and is a little bit different, because what you actually want to do now is not necessarily take the data set that you're actually going to be using, which is the conversion rate, and putting that as the main scope, but you actually want to take the Excel that you're going to be automating. And you'll then refer back to this multiple different times. You could probably do it vice versa if you wanted to. It really does depend on how you're going to scale this. But in this essence, in this case, both would work quite well. I'm going to rather than go with a different approach and go with the opportunities first. And then this will be conversion rate. Right, and then what we're going to do here is actually just update or look up conversion, calculate conversion, and update final or total amount. All right, so that's going to be what you're going to be aiming to do with this next activity. Now I am going to go through it a little bit faster because this is going to be something you do for homework. The recording will be available. So if you want to use this later to kind of go through your homework, you're more than welcome to. So like I said, we're going to go through 2 Excel files. The first thing that we want to do is actually select the file that we're going to be pointing to. So if we go back to the homework exercise, the first thing that we want to connect to is the opportunities. Okay, it shows that it's open, so just quickly close these 2 documents. Select opportunities. While I've got both closed, I'm just quickly going to do the same with the conversion. Okay, and then I can open them back up again. Cool. Now what's going to happen is, once again, we said we don't want to save the changes. We do want to save the changes for the first one, but we do not want to save the changes for the second one, because the second one is the conversion rate. And the conversion rate, we don't want to be changing anything. We just want to be using it as lookup data. All right. Now what we want to do is we actually want to now start doing this for each and every single row that we have inside of our table. So that table is going to be over here. Now what we're going to do is go search for that for each loop that we were looking for earlier. And we're going to look for each row in the Excel. Okay, now this current row, what you can actually do is select a range. So this range that we're looking at over here, we can look at Monday and we can actually indicate it on Excel. The reason we want to indicate it on Excel is because at the moment, there's a few other things that we've got happening over here as well. Now, if you selected this as a data table, your data would be inconsistent. So what we need to do is actually select the table that we're going to be working with, which is this data over here. So B9 all the way to J25, that's going to be our range. We're going to confirm the range. We're going to show that it has headers, and we can save after each row if we wanted to. The problem though is if we save after each row, it means that we're actually going to be saving changes to the document that we're making, which in this case is okay because we're not actually using it as a template. All right. Then what we want to actually go do next is go check a few things. So if we look now how we're going to calculate this conversion rate, we can see that the conversion rate is very much based off of the currency that we're currently using. Now, how do we actually tell which currency we're actually using? We can either look at the country, or we can look at the unit price, or the unit sales price, or the total price. It doesn't really matter which one of the two because they stay more or less the same. Now inside here, you'll see that they actually show you which currency you're kind of estimating towards, and you want to convert this over here to USD over here. So if you're going to be using euro, you need to convert, take that number and times it by this. If you're going to be taking USD, you need to take this number over here and times it by that. And you need to do some replaces to get this out to make sure that it's a number. So there's a lot of manipulation that needs to go into this exercise. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take an if statement. Now this is a logical condition to check if you can actually see the difference between different elements and evaluate different conditions. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using current row now. And because we already have the headers, we know what we're looking at here. So we can look at total price. And what we actually want to do is we want to run the condition builder because there's a few things that we want to do. So we don't want to check if price is equal to true because we know that if we look at this over here, price is never going to be equal to true. Instead, we want to see if price contains euro or EUR. So what we're going to do is we're going to change in the drop down. We're going to say we're checking for contains. And we're going to say we're looking for specific text, which needs to be EUR. We're going to save that. We're going to save that. And if it does contain EUR, you can actually show the else as well. So you can show if it is true, if it's not true. So if it does contain euro, what you actually want to then go do is set variable value. We're going to create a variable named conversion rate. And the value that we're going to save here is from Excel2, which is in the data sheet. And we're looking to save euro to USD. That euro to USD is going to show us what the conversion rate looks like. So that euro to USD is going to be that over there. Okay. So we've now set the variable. What you also want to do in your homework is make sure that you pay very specific attention to your naming. So what you can actually do here is in the if statement, say if total price contains EUR, then what you actually want to do is get conversion rate. Then what you can do is the next one, which will drop over here. I'll explain that in a bit. We'll actually go look for a different value because we know it's not, if it's not euro, it has to be something else. Okay, and then this is going to be EUR conversion rate. Cool. Then what you're going to want to do is now that you've got the conversion rates, what you might actually want to do is see if you can make this a number because we'll be multiplying that, but it's not an issue for now. Okay, then let's just cross by variance quick. Once we've got that, we've got the conversion rates. In this if statement, you're going to be doing all the different tests for the different use cases that you might have. So in the else section, you'll also be looking for USD. So then you'll add a new if statement here in the else section. So if it's not EUR, it has to be something else, which is now where we're going to go check what that something else would be. So we go check the total price again. And as I'm repeating what I'm doing in the second if statement, so if you follow along with this, you should be okay. Once again, we're going to be checking to see if this contains a very specific value. What we're looking for here is something that is not EUR. So let's go with JPY. So we'll add the text value, which in this case is JPY. Save that, click OK. You can copy this over here and paste this over here. Oopsie. Okay, and what we'll do is change the EUR to be JPY. So we're looking for the JPY conversion rate. And this, once again, we'll go to the Excel2 and go change that to the JPY to USD conversion rate. Okay, so what you'll do now is if it's not EUR and it's not JPY, you'll look for the others. So now you'll go do the nested if else statements to see if you can find the correct conversion rate. Okay, then what you'll do is once you've done that, you're actually going to go calculate the new total. So you'll set a new value. Okay, that you'll do underneath the if statement. So now that you've got your nested if statement, you can close that up so that you can actually see what your value, variable value is. You'll create a new variable. You'll set that to number with decimals. And now what you're going to do is you're actually going to calculate what the new total price USD should be. Okay, and to do this now, what you're going to do is you're actually going to take the conversion rate that you've got. Just open up the advanced editor. Just not opening up on the side. Okay, and you're going to multiply that with the current row. Okay, let me show you an easier way of doing this. So let me just clear the value quick. If you see that you need to get a current row item and you're not too sure how to do that, start with that one because that is an easier one to do. Actually, just do this quick. So we copy this. Okay, so we've opened up, we've copied that. Let's clear the value. Go to the current row, get the current total price. And then what we can do is open up the advanced editor and say times the conversion of conversion rate to double. The reason it's doing a conversion is because when I declared the conversion rate, I've made it a string and not a number with decimals. Okay, so what will now happen is that new total price will be calculated, and what we actually need to do is we need to go update the cell. So we'll write to cell, which is another activity that we'll need. Pop this down here. We'll need to identify exactly what value we want to add, which in this case will be the new total price. And we want to write that to the current row in the total price USD. Okay, then what we'll do is if we save, it should work correctly. So let's take a chance and see what happens. Okay, so it's starting to run. Okay, so it's busy running at the moment. Those values don't look completely correct, but essentially what is happening as well is we didn't remove this EUR from the text. So it's taking what it sees without the spaces or with the spaces as different values. So if I go open that up again, let me just show you quickly what that looks like. All right, so you see what's happening over here. It's spaces are working fine in some cases, but you need to actually replace that. These are currencies added in as well. Okay, then that works correctly. The only thing here is it's taking away some of the numbers. So there's some debugging that you'll need to do as well from this perspective to understand what's going on. But essentially, that is the long and short of being able to do Excel and Word automation. I know we don't have much time left. I think we've got about a minute for questions. Sorry, Christina, I know that we still need to do the last Menti question, so I'm going to hand over to you to do that.
Yes, we have one more Menti question left, so we'll just go to it now. It will be quite fast. Okay, so guys, thank you for staying with us till now. Let's go through the last Menti question. Can you confirm whether you are in the quiz room or you need the code again to get into the quiz room? Okay, so I see like most of you are in the quiz room. Is anyone who wants to join and is having trouble joining the quiz room? Should we wait? Okay, I think we can go on then. It says quiz is finished. Okay, let me check. No, it's not finished. And this is your next question. So if you go into the quiz room, you should be able to find this question and answer us, please. What are your key takeaways from this topic today? So, yeah, as you can see, your colleagues already have started to answer. That's good. So you can see takeaways can be anything, like what you learned, what you find useful from the session today, what might have caught your eye, or something that you didn't know and you found really revealing, or okay, great too. Homework. Yes, that will be a takeaway for later on. Of course, homework is always a takeaway. This is nice to see like how both you and your colleagues absorbed what happened today from Jacqui and Lovely's session. Okay, learn basics of Excel activity. You can not only automate within one application, but also between applications, correct? Okay, I'm glad to see the compliments on the tool. We will give you links for Academy follow-up for Excel and Word automation, and you will see there what more can be automated with Word and Excel, and you will also find like a very paced explanation of the Excel and Word automation. So you will be able to explore more on this subject. Okay, I think this is it. We will take this with us. Thank you very much for answering, and thank you for participating in today's session. And Jacqui, do we have anything to complete from the presentation?
There's one more meme. That's all.
Okay, one meme, and then I will give you guys the links for follow-up. Or let's give the links first, and then do the meme, because I think probably the meme is intended to be the end, the funny end of the session today. So. Guys, as I said in the beginning, of course, please make sure you register for session 4. Can you tell us in the chat how many of you are registered already for session 4 for automating email? You will learn how to automate the Outlook and Gmail as well. So that will come in pretty handy for business. Okay. If not, those of you who have not yet registered, I just sent the link in the chat, so you find it there. Course, and also I will send you again the link to the forum thread, which as you go through the homework, maybe you will need help, maybe you'll get stuck. Use the forum thread to get in touch with your peers, with your colleagues. This is why it's there for us to create a work group around the summer school. So please use this forum thread, and you can ask help from us, from the trainers, from your colleagues. I'm sure you will find help there. And now about Academy. I will give you the links. So as you can see, this is a RPA Citizen Developer Foundation, is the course for citizen developers in Academy. You already went through a bit of this course in, of course, in live sessions with our trainers till now. You will find here Excel automation with StudioX. And I will give you the link now, so in case you want to explore more. And also I will give you the link for Word automation. To access these courses, you must enroll first in the RPA Citizen Developer course, which after you finish the summer school, this will be your main follow-up and homework, actually, to finish this class in Academy, the Citizen Developer Foundation. And you will find it very useful and easier to complete after finishing the summer school. Okay. So now you have the links for forum, you have the links for Academy, and the links to session 4. And remember, you will get the recording and PowerPoint tomorrow on the event link and on email. I see someone is asking whether you need to learn StudioX or Studio both. No, you do not need to learn both. If you started on StudioX, it means you have no technical or coding experience, and you started as a citizen developer. So. Link for citizen developer thread in forum, it's been given by Lovely. So please guys, just scroll up the chat and find the links you need. You can also copy paste so you can have them handy afterwards. So I will just share again the forum thread for StudioX. You will also find the links for the sessions there. Okay. I will give it Jacqui now. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina. So just one last meme. And while we're looking at that meme, we can open up for any last questions that might be lurking around. I see we've got some questions about whether C# is something that we need to learn if we want to go ahead with Studio. And I'm very proud to say that the answer to that is no. So you don't need to learn C#, you don't need to learn VB, you don't need to learn any language to be able to use Studio. If you want to be able to use Studio or StudioX, as long as you can understand or pick up, some of the expressions and just pop that in, it'll work. Doesn't mean you need to go learn a whole new language to use the tool, which is great. So if you are comfortable with StudioX and you're really enjoying what you're able to do, you can switch over to Studio. It is a little less controlled, so you can do a lot more. You've got a lot of freedom with Studio. So yeah, I mean, if you're happy with StudioX and you find yourself very comfortable, don't be scared to switch over to Studio. It's quite easy to do, and the topics and kind of the way that you do things is more or less the same. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you all have found this very, very insightful, and that you all feel like computer experts now. And if you don't, good luck with the homework. Hopefully you'll feel like a computer expert at the end of that.
Thank you, guys. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Jacqui. Thank you, Lovely, for a wonderful session today, for all the support and wonderful training delivered. See you guys on Thursday for email automation. Don't forget. So we'll meet at the same hour on Thursday. Thank you, and do your homework.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you, Krishna.